Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All right, as we mentioned in the previous segment, all of our guests today are brought to you by the Waddling Dog Pub. February 22nd, Dog will be hosting a fundraising night in support of the Canucks Autism Network. Better late than never. We're joined now by TSN Scouting Director Craig Button. Before we get to Craig, can we show this tweet from Dan Murphy, our friend from Sportsnet? First ever guest on Donnie and Dolly. Just spoke, and Murph's in Denver, Canucks and Avalanche today. Just spoke with Arshdeep Bains. He's really happy. His father is here just in case his NHL debut is tonight, waiting on Rick Tocchet to see if he'll announce the lineup. What are you smirking about over there?
There is no way his father is flying from Vancouver to Denver, and he's not playing tonight, Don. Come on.
Okay.
His dad's there, which is great. You know, that's great. That's huge. But I fully expect him to make his NHL debut tonight.
We're joined now by TSN Scouting Director Craig Button. Craig, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
Yeah, sorry. I was having a little bit of a problem connecting. It didn't seem like my computer wanted to connect to Zoom. So it wasn't anything on your end. It was all on my end. So thanks for being patient with me.
Hey, Craig, no problem, by the way. Arshdeep Bains could be making his debut, NHL debut tonight. How do you think he'll do at the NHL level?
I think he has a chance to be a really good contributor. You know, when he was signed as a free agent out of Red Deer, his game really took off in Red Deer. And he was a player that had played in the Western Hockey League. I think if anything I could describe about Arshdeep that applies to all young players, everybody's going to progress at different rates. You're going to mature in different ways. And just because you're not showing signs of being an NHL player at 17 or 18 or even 19 doesn't mean that you're not going to eventually be able to show it. And the NHL teams are always watching. The scouts always have their eyes on the players. And so if you're patient with your development and you continue to work at it and progress, get good coaching, get good development work like Arshdeep got, then you're going to get an opportunity. And so he got that opportunity through really great play with the Red Deer Rebels. And now he's getting an opportunity to potentially make his NHL debut. There's a really good play with the Abbotsford Canucks. I see him as a player. He's got size. He's got a really good head and sense and feel for the game. Can chip in some offense. He's probably a third-line center. But those types of centers that can carry play, contribute somewhat on the offensive side of things, but be hard to play against. And the reason he's hard to play against is because of his length, because of his size. He competes. He's smart. He knows how to, take advantage of situations where he can negate the opponent and by extension then take advantage offensively. Not big-time offense, but a player that I think could eventually develop into that type of player. And third-line centers that can play that way, or even on the wall. He can even play on the wall. Those types of players become really valuable when you want to be a contender.
Hey, Craig, here's something I wasn't aware of, and same goes for Rick. And, well, there's a lot of things we're not aware of. If you watch the show every day, you know what I'm talking about. But we've just been informed that, is this a thing? The NHLPA pays for parents, for families, to attend their son's first NHL game if it's on the road? Is that a thing?
I'm not sure. And, the one thing that, I'm not aware of that. I thought NHL teams paid for it. I'm not aware of the NHLPA doing that. But you know how I find out I don't know anything? I just go on social media and people tell me.
Exactly.
Yeah, we get it texts, we get emails. Yeah, same here, Craig. Archie's dad is down in Denver, so read into that what you will. Meanwhile, Craig, speaking of the Canucks in Colorado today, but they lose 10-7 to Minnesota yesterday. What a strange game, featuring 4 5-on-3s for the Wild. They scored on 3 of them. How much can you read into a crazy game like that?
I would say you can read as much into a crazy game like that as you would read into the NBA All-Star game. The game all got one-sided in terms of offense, right? And it was 5-2 for the Canucks. And I was in Calgary and I was doing the Jets intermissions and the panel work, and so I'm there and I'm watching the Canucks game, and there was nothing that was signaling, oh boy, they better be careful here, they're in trouble. And then, like, with a snap of a finger, boy, did trouble ensue. It's like one of those flash storms that comes in. You don't really see it coming. You might see the clouds getting a little bit coming into the air, and then before you know it, you have no umbrella, you have no raincoat, you're running around in flip-flops, and you're all wet, and you got nowhere to dry out before you know it. And I think that's what happened watching the game to the Vancouver Canucks. I completely see it as a one-off. The beautiful thing for me when I see a game like that, especially with a really good team, and the Canucks are a really good team, is that I'm sure Rick Tocchet and the coaching staff had a lot of thoughts in their head, but they know, hey, this hasn't happened this year to them. Go into Colorado. Players know that they can be better. You're going to have your attention heightened just because you're going in to play a really good Colorado team. Get it behind you as quick as possible. When you're playing hockey and you have a back-to-back coming up, I don't think there's any better way to get past it than to get ready to play again the very next day.
Hey, Craig, the Canucks brought in Phil Kessel last week. They're going to continue to work him out, and the plan is that he gets past certain checkpoints on and off the ice. Conditioning, obviously, is the number one concern. A guy with that much time off, Craig, 10 months, does he need more? How much more time do you think he needs before they pull the trigger and say, okay, you're ready for game shape?
Well, I think you nailed it, Rick. It's game shape. It's being up to the pace of the game. A couple of things that I will say. Number one, Rick Tocchet is very clear in terms of what pace he wants his players to play at. Well, the good thing is Phil Kessel knows exactly what Rick Tocchet wants as well. So I think trying to find that intersection where Rick can be satisfied and Phil can be confident that he can get in there and do those things is where they're trying to meet. And I don't know if there's a date that comes to mind. I don't. It doesn't have to be before the trade deadline. I believe nothing ventured, nothing gained. Phil's got a massive amount of experience. He's an exceptionally smart hockey player. So those things are all going to come back into play in terms of understanding the game, understanding what the challenges are. Getting up to speed is a big part of being successful in the league. And I think with Phil Kessel, you'd probably want him to get into maybe 10 or 12 games prior to the playoffs if you want to use him in the playoffs and you see that he's ready. And that's the time frame you're working towards. But it's different for a player coming off an injury. I don't think Phil was a player that was out of shape or anything like that. It's just now getting up to game speed. And players tell you this, Rick, at the beginning of a season. You can train in the off season, but getting up to game speed with training camp, preseason games is really important. So what I would say is this is probably Phil Kessel's preseason. Then they'll determine where he gets to that point where they can both be mutually satisfied that he can come in and help.
Hey, Craig, over the weekend we found out Hanifin's now on the market along with Tanev and Markstrom. What are the Flames going to look like, Craig, after the trade deadline? I mean, this is going to be fascinating to watch.
Right now it is. It's become the team and the city that everybody's looking at. It's not just who's available, it's the quality of what's available. Hanifin is a 27-year-old defenseman this year, and a really good defenseman. Tanev is a really good defenseman. You want to bolster your blue line going into the playoffs? I mean, those are two excellent, excellent players. Then you got Markstrom, who has a no-move clause, 2 years left on his contract. A team looking to improve their goaltending absolutely should be interested in Markstrom. How deep it goes after that, it feels to me, with the Calgary Flames having, NHL 500 team, that's what they are. They're not going to make the playoffs, and certainly they're trying to get something in return for their free agents. But moving forward, I would suggest this: you better be careful if you're Calgary, because if you're trying to retool this and trying to get something for your unrestricted free agents, and then you're going to throw your young players to the wolves, I know how that plays out. It never gets you to the spot that you want to get to sooner than you're able to. And sooner, everybody thinks it can happen quick. Never does. It'll happen longer. And I think there's a trickle-down effect. What happens if other players start to go, why am I committed here? You've just traded Hanifin, you traded Tanev, Markstrom, Rasmus Anderson says, well, why should I stay here? Where does it extend? Calgary Flames could find themselves in a very significant challenge, making these types of moves. Because I don't think they're committed to blowing it up, but they may not have any choice.
Yeah. And Craig, quickly, if you don't mind, Jaromir Jagr has his number 68 retired by the Pittsburgh Penguins, his first of 9 National Hockey League teams. This happened over the weekend. Drafted here in Vancouver in 1990, what are your memories of a young Jaromir Jagr?
Wow, I mean, he's a classic example, Donnie and Rick, of a player where the narrative surrounding a player, and you better be careful when you're evaluating players, whether it be in the draft or for trades or anything, there's a lot of BS that goes around it. Jaromir Jagr was the best player in that draft, and it wasn't even close. But all the narratives that surround, oh, yeah, he's a Czech. Oh, yeah, he's this, he's that, he's that. He was a great player. He was a great player when he was 17. He was a great player at 18. He was a great player at 30. NHL teams, and I'm talking about the teams picking 1, 2, 3, and 4, all wanted to believe the narrative, and they all paid a significant price for it because Jaromir Jagr was better than maybe all 4 of them combined, and that's Nolan, Nedved, Primo, and Ricci combined because his impact was tremendous. And certainly you can look at what Jaromir Jagr did in his career, one of the greats of all time. 4 teams in that draft. And let me tell you this, they all knew that Jaromir Jagr was the best player, and they still went down the path of making a mistake because they all wanted to believe the BS narrative surrounding him.
Man, when you lean into the camera like that, Craig, it makes it extra convincing. Better late than never. Like I said, this was outstanding as always. Thanks so much, Craig.
Yeah, thanks. Have a great day.